In big matches against big teams, they haven't got anywhere near them.
Yeah. And Barcelona fans will tell you, well, we're a different version now.
Right.
We're an improved version. We're together now. We have an idea as to how we want to play.
Clasico was, what, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, that's the point I was going to get to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Eventually, I was going to tell you that it wasn't too long ago when you lost El Clásico in a match that really felt like this was the validation for all the sort of positive momentum that you had going on. Now, Barcelona fans also will hang on to the Copa del Rey and say, hey, this shows that we're taking a step forward. This shows that what Ronald Koeman is doing makes sense. This shows that this team not only does they have a future, but in the present, they can compete. And I will say to all of them, yeah, that's great. Yeah, there's been some steps forward. Yes, there's been some improvements from the beginning of the season, but the bar was very low at the beginning of the season, where every game was a difficult one, where every game was a struggle. And yes, this team is better now than what they were then. But then you had the real matchup, and it's not a big-name team. It's Granada at home, when you can take control of La Liga, something that you didn't have in your biggest dreams and wildest dreams at the beginning of the season. You would never have thought, after that start of the year that you had, we're going to have a chance to win this. And yet you did it. You had it. It was in your hands against Granada at home, winning the game 1-0 second half, and you came up short. So it's hard to trust this team. If you objectively evaluate this team, it's hard to trust this team. Even the game against Valencia, how close they are to collapsing in a match, and how close they are to losing a match, and how close they are to winning a match. And this is something that I think sums up all of these teams. They're good enough to run the table. All three of them. Mm-hmm. But they're also bad enough to collapse.
Yep.
And that's what makes this race so intriguing, that you can make an argument for all three of them to say, oh, yeah, I can see it. And you can frame it, and you can angle it, and you can make these arguments and feel comfortable with those arguments. And then you can go on the opposite side. You can make arguments against all three of them. And you can feel comfortable, as we have this season, because Atletico Madrid keeps collapsing, Real Madrid's barely keeping it together, and Barcelona is a team that you simply cannot trust.
No, and it's interesting, that trust issue, Sid, because Ali's brought it up, and anyone who's watched Barcelona a lot over the last few months sees microcosms of brilliance, 20 to 25-minute spells where they are just exceptional. But it's very rare for Barcelona to go into a big game or a small game and take it to the opposition from start to finish.
Yeah, and there's always a moment where they feel vulnerable, isn't there? And that's the thing. And Piqué made this point at the weekend. He said that it feels like every time a team takes a shot, they score against us. And funnily enough, the stats actually almost bear that out. Now, I must confess, I'm probably going to have remembered this slightly wrong, but I believe they have let in 9 of the last 14 shots they've faced. So that tells you that they're being caught in daft positions and that they're conceding a lot of goals from not very much. But it shows that the chances they're up are very clear ones, whether it's a mistake or caught on the break or just suddenly very, very open. And I think that's the thing, that they don't, to use Ali's word, they're not reliable. And you look at the front page of the 2 Catalan dailies, for example, after the Granada game, and they both went for the same headline, which I think sums all of this up. They both went for unforgivable. Because Barcelona had worked their way into a position where they could have had the league title in their own hands. They were 1-0 up against Granada. And at that point, something goes wrong. At that point, they lose control of the game. Now, obviously, the Valencia game this weekend was the opposite. They didn't start well, and they eventually found a way back in thanks to a really very bad handball indeed from Toni Lato. But they are a team that's not reliable. And yet, as Ali says, these arguments that you can make to say every team wins the league, you can also make arguments to say every team loses the league. Because if Barcelona aren't reliable in the games that really, really matter, Real Madrid, funnily enough, do seem to be reliable in the games that really matter. But look at Real Madrid. They've had 2 0-0 draws in their last 4 games. That's why they slipped away again. And then as for Atletico Madrid, well, we've seen what's happened over the last couple of months with them, which up to a point is a regression to normality with them, I think. But, of course, having had that advantage they had, and when they beat Cadiz in, I think it was back in January, they were 10 points clear of Madrid and Barcelona with a game in hand. That's to give you an idea of the scale of their collapse, which actually hasn't been a collapse in that they haven't been destroyed by anyone. They've just been letting draws go all over the place in the last 3 or 4 months.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.